Hello friends, this is gonna be a little bit of an impromptu video. I'm gonna restring my Les Paul while I'm answering some of your questions. I think this is gonna be fun. Stick around, lean back. Not too much playing in this one, but answering a couple of your questions, the one that come up frequently, and giving this Les Paul some love in the meantime, because it desperately needs a little love, a little bit of cleaning, and a couple new strings. So let's get right into it. I have a couple of questions noted down. I'm gonna get through it while I'm going through my cleaning process here. First off, let's get these strings off. I usually do that pretty violently. Just this thing here. Pam, and off they go. In my opinion, a guitar has to be able to manage that kind of violence, because I play violently sometimes, at least when I'm bending and stuff. You've seen me play if you're a follower of this channel. So they definitely can handle this little bit of violence here. Okay, so let's get into some questions while I'm doing this. First question that has come up pretty often was, where have you been? Why you're not posting as often on YouTube? And that, to be honest, has a very, very simple reason. And that reason is I also have an Instagram channel. And that Instagram channel requires a lot of attention and work. It's the far bigger channel. I started YouTube, I guess, 2 years after starting Instagram. So on Instagram we're at, I don't know, roughly 87,000 followers, and we're at 7,000 here on YouTube. So this community, a lot smaller. However, I do realize a lot of you are also following on Instagram, and but it's a lot more work to do YouTube videos. First of all, you have to come up with a cool topic, something that interests people. And I am of the opinion that the guitar landscape on YouTube is already so oversaturated. You have all these guys from Nashville doing impromptu videos with their phones all the time, rambling about stuff. Not that that's any bad or anything like that, but that's just what it is. And then you have these super well-produced videos from the big YouTubers we all know. And I sometimes ask myself, where do I fit into that, you know? Because I do have some stuff, but I'm not the biggest gear nerd, so I'm not gonna be a gear channel or anything like that. I usually just post a video when I have something to say, which is not every day. But I'm trying to be more often on YouTube because I want to build this channel, I want to grow the channel. I like the platform a lot, and there's a lot of things on Instagram lately that really rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, so expect some more videos, but let me come up with cool topics first, because I don't want to do videos about, I don't know, how to restring a guitar or anything like that. I guess you guys know how to restring a guitar. If you don't, just follow me on this one while I'm answering your questions. What strings am I using? For some reason, the string question comes up very, very often. And I'm not quite sure why that is, because I don't feel like strings have a particular sound. Yes, some of them sound darker or brighter or whatever, but to me, strings are just like a utility. You just need to play guitar. You'll notice I'm pretty straightforward with most of these things, because it's really about the playing, not so much about the brand or whatever. Now there are differences, but what I'm using is pretty much, you'll see in a second, it's just pretty regular. That's a 10 to 46 set of strings by Diodario. So regular 10 gauge, sometimes I do 10 to 52 if I know I'm tuning down. If I know I'm playing in drop B, which I do sometimes, you might have heard this on the channel. This is when I would use a 7-string set and leave out the thickest string. And then you have a 62 or something for that low B. And that works really, really well. It's one of my favorite tunings, by the way, in case you didn't know, because I'm a huge Soundgarden fan. And they use this tuning a lot, and I love it. It has a lot of advantages. It drones. There's not gonna be any recommendation from my side which strings you should buy, because I really have no skin in the game. I usually go with Diodario because I like them a little bit more brilliant sound, and I feel like they're a little bit more, they're just less sticky, I would say. It's more about the feel of that. I don't like if strings get sticky. Next question that comes up all the time would be, do you have any new equipment? And I do, actually right behind me. I don't know if you can, yes you can. You can't see it because it's probably blurry because I'm focused, but I did get, I can show you that in a second. I did get two EQs, 19-inch rack EQs. It's studio gear, it's not guitar gear, but as you can see on my left side, I do have some studio gear already, preamps, compressors, stuff my guitar signal goes through. I'm gonna get to the signal question in a second because everybody's asked me about my signal path, my entire gear, rig rundown. And I'm gonna give you an overview in a second, but the MEQs by Audioscape is what I got. They're tube-driven EQs, so what can possibly go wrong, right? What I'm hoping to do with them is just to control the mid-range a little bit better, depending on what guitar I'm using. Mid-range is so different from a Tele to a Les Paul, it's crazy. And with these EQs, you could balance that out a little bit and make it sound a lot smoother. Plus, you got tube saturation in that EQ, and Audioscape is one of the greatest companies to do pro audio gear, so you can never go wrong with buying Audioscape. They're from Florida. And then what's really cool is that in a bit, Fender is gonna send me a guitar, they said. They just came out with the new Series 2 Player 2 series or something? Player Series 2? Whatever. They're gonna send me one of these. They're gonna send me a Telecaster. And I'm excited about that. I mean, it's pretty amazing that a company like Fender is just gonna say, hey Joey, we're a fan of the channel. We're coming out with a new series made in Mexico. Do you want to try it? We're gonna send over one. I'm like, yeah, why not? Such a Telecaster fan anyway, so. Okay, I think the fretboard is pretty clean here, guys. Pretty clean, but not smooth enough, you know? Which is why we're gonna use a little bit of oil. Do you do that too? Like, do you use some oil sometimes to make your fretboard a little bit more smooth? Get the rest of the dirt off? I have a little bit of lemon oil here that I'm using. And just go over like that. You can't really see that, right? I'm just rubbing it in a little bit. Okay, next question, the one that you've all been waiting for. What's my signal chain? Give me a complete rundown of the rig you're using. Well, to all of you guys asking, you need to understand that I'm very, very practical with these things. I'm using, in a certain situation, what is plugged in from the last session that I did. And if that doesn't work, I'll make an effort and change gear. So that is like the prequel to the whole signal path thing. My attitude is not like, if I'm not using X, then I can't record. Or I'm never gonna record again without using Y or anything like that. I'm just not like that. That said, there's different things that I'm doing. So setup number one would be that I'm just going straight into my camper. This is how I record most of the stuff. And then it depends, like what kind of profile? Well, am I recording a rock song? Might be something like a Marshall Super Lead, a Bogner Ecstasy, a Diesel VH4, a Friedman whatever. But could be anything pretty much. Could be absolutely anything that has a great distortion tone, like, but usually I go with British stuff, British/German stuff, like Bogner. Reinhard Bogner is a German. He lives in the US, but he's German. Peter Dietzel from Dietzel Amplification is German. Marshalls, Orange, crazy good amps. And then, but I'm not too particular about what exactly it is that I'm using, as long as it works well with the riff or the melody or the idea that I'm doing. So what happens next? Sometimes I go through these preamps. These preamps just add a little bit of analog saturation. They're not doing very much. You probably couldn't tell if I didn't mention it. And then if the sound is something clean, I might go through one of my outboard compressors, just to compress the signal a little bit so the clean sound gets a little bit fatter, but not always. It really depends on how lazy I am as well. Like, I'm not super particular about these things. The sound has to be right in my ears, but usually that already happens when I plug straight into a camper and use some profile. That's just 95% of my tone would be my guitar and a camper, or my guitar and the amp. And the only amp that I'm using in here, if I'm not using a camper, is the Marshall Silver Jubilee. I do have a pedal board in front of me. What you have down there is a POG Octaver, Boss Hyperfuzz, Blues Breaker style boost pedals. You've seen them a million times, there's nothing special on them. And sometimes I will use some of that and sometimes I won't. The choice that I'm making sometimes is purely because I'm lazy. Like, I'm plugging straight into a camper, I would need a boost pedal, but I'm too lazy to plug in my pedal board, then I'm just using a boost on the camper. I just use whatever is available, because whatever is available, we're living in 2024. There's not too much shitty gear around anymore. Like, nowadays you can pretty much use everything and anything to get a good sound out of something. Back to the signal path. So if I'm not using the camper, I'm using the Marshall Silver Jubilee. The way I record this here is using a load box, and what I'm using is the Red 7 Amp Central. You can't see it, but it's right over here. The Red 7 Amp Central is pretty much just a load box with an IR loader. So impulse response, for those of you who don't know, are little digital files that contain all the information how a speaker would react. So in a way, it's a digital model of a speaker. So you take away the load and you put in an IR, and then you can hear your tube amp over these monitors that I have. So it is possible to fully crank my tube amp and have it in a pleasant volume via my studio monitors. What IRs am I using? Everything that sounds good. I'm not particular to any brand of IRs. Speaker type, however, I do like V30s, but I have played other stuff as well. I like the EVH type greenbacks. I like normal greenbacks. Sometimes I use Eminence IRs because the sound is too bright and Eminence sounds darker. So if you're familiar with the sounds that I'm getting on this channel or on Instagram, there's IRs all over the place. Again, IRs make a huge difference to your sound, but it will always sound like me, whatever I'm using. What I know is true is that a guitar player that knows exactly how to touch this instrument and play it will never need any specific gear to sound great. And when you listen to somebody like Robin Ford, for instance, you can clearly hear that. He can go on stage with a small Fender amp or his 100-watt Dumble. It doesn't matter. It always sounds like Robin Ford. It's just the craziest thing, you know? It's always great. I've seen Joe Bonamassa with Marshalls. I've seen Joe Bonamassa with Tweeds. Two amps that couldn't be more different from each other. Did it sound different? Yes. Did it still sound like 100% Joe Bonamassa? Also yes. Which goes to show, whoops, that's not on the bridge. Which goes to show, it really often isn't about the gear. But of course I understand you want to know what I'm using. That's why I'm telling you. That's fine. I'm just, don't want, like, guys, I don't want to sound like a boomer, like, learn how to play, the rest doesn't matter. That's not it, but I sometimes feel like we're overestimating the impact of certain types of gear, when it's, at the end of the day, it's a lot more about how you pick the strings, how you play, and I guess that's it. I hope you liked that little impromptu video. Guitar feels great, fretboard is nice and clean and smooth. See you in the next one.